Hi, my name is Mike Schrage, and I'm president of GNPI, Good News Productions International, here in Joplin, Missouri. I want to welcome you to another episode of Faith Greater Than Fear. It's something that we have been curating and producing for well over 18 months since we've been together on the planet in this pandemic. And just seeing how God's people are reacting in their business, in their family, and in their faith to what has been some very challenging times. Now, we have had opportunities to interview people from various sectors, and this curated view is going to be about people in the mission community, the organizational Christian community. And so we invite you to listen to people that give their views on just what God has been saying at a corporate level. And it's interesting because we hear them say and speak about how God, through technology, is leveling the playing field and how the priorities of doing good things have been giving way to the doing the best things. And so I invite you to listen to this episode of getting and hearing views from some really great and godly men and women who are leaders. Let's listen.
What is the message that we're really taking out? We've got so many great organizations doing so many great things, benevolence. We've got hospitals being built. We've got mission stations that are really concentrating on the felt needs of their communities as they preach the gospel. And I thought, what a great time to just stop, pause, and say, okay, we're doing all these things and so many great organizations doing them well. Discipleship, evangelism, benevolence. What is the primary goal? What is the primary objective? And that objective has never changed. It's to help people far from God come near to the gospel message of Jesus Christ. What message are we really delivering to the world? And what is the message of Jesus? Yes, it is one of compassion, benevolence. Those things are important, but we've really not finished the task until we help someone understand what motivates us ultimately. And that is because God sent his son to save us from our sins. That yes, we want to be healed physically, but primarily we want to know that we're in good standing with God spiritually and that our soul will be, who we are will be with God for all of eternity.
Unreached people groups, back in the late 70s, this term started to be used to describe tribes, castes, kindreds that were not able to respond to Christ just because a neighboring tribe had. And what we're talking about is a tribe that for purposes of language or maybe acceptance culturally or socially, the church kind of reaches a barrier, a wall. And in order to reach that neighboring tribe, we kind of have to design a specific or a contextualized strategy that focuses on them specifically. Unreached people groups sometimes are described as having maybe less than 5% notionally or nominally Christian adherents, sometimes described as having less than 2% evangelical believers of all kinds. And then now in the last few years, we've also focused a lot on unengaged group. And an unengaged group would be one step even farther unreached. By unengaged, we mean there's no viable church planning strategy, no boots on the ground implementer that's learning the language of that group and living there long term. So those kinds of groups are tough. We also have been focusing a lot on people that don't have the Bible yet. We've been partnering with our good friends at Pioneer Bible Translators. We have, I think, now 5 different works that are side by side with them, in which our workers serve on the same team as they are serving. They as the translators, and then our workers as the disciple makers. And when people visit, I'm sure they don't even know which org and which worker is which, because working together so closely.
Even before COVID-19, if it was known, a lot of mission care was even taking place. And that's the important thing, that everyone has a role. Although it may not be going, they can be great prayer warriors. And that's one of the big things I'm encouraging. In the mission world, it's just highlighted even more how thankful we are that we have technology where we can still connect with our global partners rather than sending a letter, and waiting 6 weeks for it to get to our missionary and then 6 weeks for a reply. Instantaneously, we can be on a Zoom call or a WhatsApp message from people all around the world. And so bringing people together is key. And as our church continually sends people out, we're building care teams so that then they'll understand how to use technology and how they can regularly engage with our people across the world.
The church showed up again and again and again. I just got off the phone today with another group, and they lost all their interns, all their summer trips, which is what they depend on to plant churches in Germany, in greater Europe. And yet, they're hurting financially a little bit. They're struggling, but they are more concerned about ICOM. And so we're feeling this. We have lost or greatly diminished every stream of income. Our sponsorships, our advertising, our annual giving, monthly giving is down. And then we're going to go into a conference trying to credit forward, those that need that, and give a refund to those that want that, and work out deals with what monies are left and open up, and then still pivot and go virtual. And so I have an incredible staff. Without them and the power of God, it couldn't be done. And, we work hard. They work incredibly difficult. But like I've seen again, and you've probably seen too, God is in control. He's never left the throne. There are gobs of stories of how the pandemic has opened doors. And people have turned to faith. People have prayed who didn't pray to God for years in their life. There's all kinds of great, great things that have happened out of this. We just got to look for them and listen for them. And yet, he's still on the throne. He'll get us through this. We'll make it through this.
So we've, over the years, through the DMM then, when that really kicked in 2015, we would then put all of the tools that we had on micro SD chips, because everyone has a cell phone with a memory chip slot. And so we just ramped that up at the studio, and we're able to resource a lot of people with the scriptures who'd never had the scriptures before, because they couldn't read and write in those languages.
Yeah, a lot of them, just to hear something in their own language, whether they're interested in Christianity or not, sit with a smile on their face because it's something they understand for the first time. So, yeah.
And a lot of, because it's a Muslim, in the north, predominantly Muslim peoples, they could ask for a copy of the scriptures, and they would say, so I can listen quietly. And so they wouldn't have the opposition at the beginning with investigating Christianity. So
we travel around internationally and here in the States and train people how to use the oral arts, oral tools and storytelling to integrate those into their ministries and their faith and their personal life, and really model that after the way Jesus did his ministry. And so there's a lot that goes into that. But we kind of discovered that when we were workers in northern Vietnam, and worked with a tribal group up there, and just realized how oral they were, this oral tradition that permeated their whole culture and history. And we realized that we were woefully unprepared by Christian ministry to even engage that in an appropriate way. And so that started us down the rabbit hole, if you will. The nature of our training is we train people. The goal is for them to be able to do this themselves first as practitioners, but then to be able to train other people. And so there's a really high focus on them not being dependent on us being there. And after a certain amount of time with us, they're able to go and reproduce the training that we give them. And so all throughout these international countries, it's been a mixed bag. It's been really hard. We've been able to help them out with just some funding to even stay alive and then get food. But they have been pushing forward on their own, which has been incredible. One of our partners in a Southeast Asian country, his network of leaders, they had been reporting that they had been memorizing so many, some of them 20, 30 stories over the lockdown, and family members were coming to Jesus. because they were a captive audience. They couldn't go anywhere because of the lockdown. And these storytellers and these trainers were going, when this lockdown lifts, we want to be ready. We realized that we didn't have enough of these stories memorized. And so they're just doing them with their families. And so lots of amazing stories like that coming out, them helping their communities.
What do you see happening from your 30,000 foot view and all the women that you connect with overseas? What's he doing?
Well, I think he's probably doing a lot of things. One of the things that I see is he's leveling the playing field. And so what was maybe known as you're overseas and you do this and it's your job to share the gospel, the lines are blurry now. It's like, well, if we're all in the same boat together and you're doing this over there, why can I not be doing it over here? And so the idea of sharing the gospel, of sharing your faith, of living your life openly, I think the doors are being opened to a missional life, no matter where you're at. And so I'm excited to see how that impacts the kingdom. I'm excited to see maybe people who have never considered going before realizing, well, if I've been living that way here, then actually I'm not afraid of it anymore. Why couldn't I do this overseas somewhere? And challenging them to think differently because of what they've been through right now. And so I don't know what the future holds, but I definitely know God uses all things for good. And I think we could definitely see people empowered and encouraged to look at how can I live my life more missionally, and does that take place in a different location?
Wow, wasn't that some great insights? And it's just been amazing how God has been using various organizations and men and women in those organizations to change, to pivot, and to challenge all of us to, in our personal lives and in our leadership stations that we find ourselves in business and in family and in communities, to make a difference. So I just hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have, there's probably some others that would really enjoy it as well. So share it on your social media platforms. Give us a chat back. And there's a podcast version as well. And so from all of us here at GNPI in Joplin, Missouri, to all of you, we just wish you a great day. And will you have your faith always, always be greater than any fear. God bless you.